and I think they'll catch up and get the gist of it. So again, today we're going to be talking about digital Watchdog VMAX HD over Coax recorders, a little bit of setup on those, and of course setup on the cameras. And we'll have a Q&A at the end. So again, if you have a question, by all means. Something I went over, something too fast. I've been told I go a little too fast, so I'm going to try to slow down a little bit. It's my upbringing. I guess I just talk a little faster now. So let me just move this in my way here. So we're going to talk about our VMAX Universal HD over Coax video recorders. So these units record up to 5 megapixel, seamlessly plug in old analog cameras as well as new ones. We also have up to Coax control for remote configuration, which we're going to talk about in a little while. And we have a few different models. We've got a 4, 8, and 16 channel model. All of them will work on a 4K monitor, so you can display those higher resolution cameras, higher resolution monitor. Our 5-year warranty. They all have alarm ins and outs. And by all means, check it out. I actually plugged one of these into a 4K monitor in my office. It looks great. So you can check out that end of it too. We have those 4K TVs and monitors have come way down in price. So first thing we're going to talk about is setup, as of course, is network setup on these systems. And you go in and you can either take DHCP from the network, or put in a static IP given to you by the IT department. We also have bandwidth limiting, which is what this is down here, bandwidth limiting we're going to. So we can limit it to 25K or just set it to a full 1 gig bandwidth on the system. So this is important because you may have a customer that might only have 8 or 9 or 10 meg upload speed. And this way you can say, okay, the recorder's only going to use up 5 of that. Okay, so you can limit the amount of bandwidth it'll use, especially if you have a lot of people logging in. We also have this thing, which is the use UP&P port forwarding, which will attempt to open ports on the router to let the system connect to the network. You can go into that other screen there and, of course, put in the IP. You can give the DVR a name. This video is going a little fast. You can go in and, of course, set your date and time. Very important to have your time zone set. You can name all your cameras, front door, back door, side door, north parking lot, south parking lot, whatever here. And this is in the actual startup wizard. So you can then go in and actually put all this information in. Here's a very unique feature. It'll actually, once you have it on the network, you can actually go in and check and see if there's a new firmware on the website. Okay, so this will allow you then to update the machine. So, we may ship these out, the firmware is fine, they sit on a shelf for a few months, and we may put out something that's a performance improvement, and then the distributor sells it, and, a firmware update, you may want it necessary just because it'll allow it to perform better. So some of the other menus, this is the system information menu where you go in and set the time. You can double check, make sure you got the time zone right. So you can manage the time manually or set it to a time server so it'll automatically go in and adjust the time. So very important, you have the time right on the system for a variety of reasons, including making sure you can find the proper video. If you got to have the timestamp on the video, of course, that's correct. So along with that is also you can sync it to a time server, so you can actually have it synced. We have some time servers in there now. If there's no internet connection, they probably have a machine on site that's running as a time server. You figure out that IP address, you put that IP address in there, and it'll sync up and give the system time. So at least it'll be synced to the time in their building. Another setup feature is you can actually go in and not really set up, but you can see the system status. You can see if any of the cameras are disconnected, if you're hooked up to the internet, if there are any clients connected, okay? And that's a very powerful feature because it allows you to see what's going on. And you can see these system status performing monitors in the web browser remotely also. So you don't have to go to the site and say, oh, I already know a camera's out, but you can look at the status of the whole system. Say, hey, my system's running slow, you can connect with the web browser, look and say, well, you've got 6 people connected, you know, and say they're probably using up a lot of bandwidth. So performance monitor actually allows you to go in and see CPU, memory, utilization, how much recording is being used up by the system itself. So again, just gives you this real good diagnostic tool to look into the system and see what's going on with it. Because we all get calls from customers, they think something's maybe going on with it, and many times it's an external problem. So in here's users. You can go in, of course, add your user, give it a username, give it a description, put in, of course, password. I think I'm putting my own name in here, Paul K. And then, of course, you can then set the permission of what you can do and can't do. I think I'm probably putting in, what am I putting in here? 1, 2, 3, look at this, high security. 1, 2, 3, 4, what's that, PDK or PAULK, I guess. Very high security password. But you go in, you got to, of course, repeat it to make sure you're putting in the right thing. And then you can set permissions of what the person can see. So this Paul K person can't do anything in the functions menu. You can just do live view and playback. Can't access any configuration. And there may even be cameras hidden from it. You could have camera number 12, maybe near where the guards hang out. Those cameras, they can't play back. So now we've got Paul K in here. We've got, of course, the baked-in admin user. You can set that user to auto log in on boot, so that whatever restrictions are on there, it'll be on there. And if you look on here, when it starts up, it'll do a last screen mode. So that will actually, whatever you're last in will pop up. And you can also force an auto log off. So after a certain period of time, there's no activity, the system will go to either black squares like this or auto log off and show cameras live, whatever the cameras are you have permission to see. So there may only be 1 or 2 cameras on the screen. So you can restrict who's seeing what if someone walks into someone's office and they happen to have walked away. So display, we ship them from the factory at 1024 by 768, so they work with old monitors. We know there's a lot of retrofits out there. I know that this one was hooked up to a 1920 by 1080 display, but you can use a 4K monitor. Hit apply. We jump down, and now everything is in 1080p. So everything will look a little tighter, a little better, a little clearer. And of course, it'll be at the native resolution of the monitor, which is what, of course, this was. So running it at the native resolution of the monitor was. Now, over here, we've got enable channel drag and drop. What that means is you don't have to unplug the cameras and move them around the slots. You can just drag and move the cameras around. This allows you to check your hard drive. It'll actually pull up, if I click the health thing, it'll tell you the temperature. And over here, you can factory default it. And also you've finish all your setup, all your camera names, all your IPs, all your users, all that stuff. You can go in and create a backup of your settings. So you can take those, you put them on a USB drive, you can email them to yourself. We'll just speed that up a little bit. There we go. Scan, import, export your settings, so this way you can have them saved. Something, God forbid, something happens, you know, thing gets struck by lightning, power surge, just something happens, you can put a new unit in there and be back to at least to where you were when you installed it. Let's see if we see the health check here. There we go. Oh, just repeating that same one. So that's some of the setup of your DW A1 Plus. Okay, I'm not going to go into every single setting. We have other videos of those, but I wanted to give you the settings of that, of your initial setup of what you need to do. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the software that connects to it, the C3 software, and then we're going to get into some camera programming. So The C3 CMS, of course, are very easy to use. Centralized monitoring allows you to view 256 sites, multiple connections. We have yet to charge for a software health upgrade. It's got a built-in health monitor and an event viewer for your remote sites. You can remotely configure through the web browser, the DVRs from here. Has just a ton of features built in, including one of the easiest abilities to back up. You know, we have the live snapshot control, which I think I'll be able to show you. Device check, event reporting, just a ton of features in this software that allows you to talk to the IP Plus and the A1 Plus remotely. So one of the features I find very powerful, of course, is the drag and drop interface. I can go in here and just start dragging cameras, whether it's cameras from all recorders or a single camera over, and just build the layouts the way I want to. Maybe I just want to see the front door or all the parking lot cameras or whatever. I can build my layouts any way I want. But let's say I wanted to look at these 3 cameras specifically. I can right mouse button click, create what's called a panoramic view. In this case, I'm going to do a horizontal mode. And it's going to create another layout. And this layout, I can do live view playback on all 3 of those cameras. It stitches them together. So you can now make layouts and views in C3 CMS. So if you got an alleyway, you can make that vertical, make it horizontal. You can actually do up to 4 cameras. I chose 3 in here. And a matter of fact, let me see if I can pull up C3 here. I think you guys can see that. I will double check on the audience view. Yeah, you guys are seeing this. So I can go in and take a camera, pull over a camera. And up here, there's a bunch of controls for zoom, whatever. I can print, but then there's this one. This one here, I can take a snapshot. And it says image, you know, success. I can just click OK, and it's buried in my folder. I'm going to do it again. Let's say there was something in the view that shouldn't be in there or isn't really part of it or something like that. I can take and just mask out areas of it and opaque them out. So this way, I'm not maybe putting someone who's just a bystander in something that's going on in there immediately. It'll just save them to your folder. I have this one saved to my documents. Click save. And away we go. So, and that's one, I think, real powerful feature. Allows you to be a little more discerning when you're sending someone a clip of saying, hey, these 2 guys were doing X, but the people around them, you know, I mean, I don't, you know, we don't need to involve them in anything. It's just a really, I think, a very neat, powerful feature of C3. And like I said, there's just a ton more features in the C3 software, and we have a couple videos online. And next week, I'm doing a system design also on IP Plus, and we'll be talking a little more about C3 and how it interacts with the IP settings. So built into the C3, as I said, is the event viewer. So it allows you to view all the DVRs you're installing, or if you're an end user and you've got 10 sites, 20 sites, 50 sites, you can view what's going on in those sites, you know, on a dashboard, on a monitor. They'll tell you what's connected, what's disconnected, all the cameras. You can even have, although there'll be a lot of them, you know, motion events on there, but also alarm input triggers display on here instead of that. And then you can get a rolling counts from each day. So maybe, you know, every day there's supposed to be like, you know, 40, whatever. And then, you know, yesterday there was a huge spike in events. You can go in and look and see what those events were and manage them from there. It's a very powerful interface. We use it in our office to monitor demos and other stuff, and we have a couple of customers that are using it just to monitor their customer sites because things happen. You know, you might have a site that's always connecting, disconnecting, customer can't connect. You'll know probably before the customer that their internet's down. Okay, so if they call you up saying it looks like your internet's down, you know, we have a system here that's just checking the health. We'll send you an email when it's, you know, when we think it's back up. You know, so you can hang this on the wall and have a constant look at all your recorded systems, the systems that are recorded. So let's get into the StarLight cameras, okay? So we've got 2 megapixel cameras and 5 megapixel cameras in the StarLight group. I'm starting with one that's one of our low profile cameras. It's the same as this view over here, but we have multiple lens options. We have, of course, all the different housings, bullet cameras, dome cameras, our IK10, IP66 ball cameras there. It can point in any direction on it. Universal HD over analog. So if you want to even plug these into an old recorder, okay, so someone's got an old recorder site that I want to give up, that old Pelco recorder, you can take these, plug it in, and it'll talk old analog. So, you know, again, obviously they won't be seeing 5 megapixel video. They'll be seeing, you know, the equivalent of like 704 by 480 or 960 by 480, whatever their max number of, you know, the video the unit can handle. So when we're talking about cameras, you know, we've got our little low profile StarLight Plus. This happens to be a 4mm fixed lens, IR, and of course our StarLight Plus technology built into it. Very small. I mean, this is becoming, you know, again, I think shrinking of cameras is becoming a very popular form factor. The smaller they are, the better, maybe, in some people's mind. But again, universal camera. So this is what the system looks like when you kind of take it apart. You got your light sensor for your ambient light. You can do your setup from this OSD. So you can plug in a little test video cable and use your monitor and run the camera from there. But I'm going to show you the way you can run setup at the recorder or remotely. So this system is, we're just going to go take a look at what the box looks like, what's in the box. Again, this has a, you know, our up to Coax technology on it. For the description of some of the features on the unit itself, you know, where it's made, different certifications on it, and comes in the box is actually the extra video cable, which isn't shown here. A little tool to take the top off. You have a little protective plastic top of it, and also all the cameras ship with our clean view coating. So leave that plastic on till it's all mounted, ready to go, and then you just peel that thing off. So this way your fingerprints don't, your finger oils don't get on the dome itself. And the clean view will help shed water and keep dirt off the camera. So when the IRs pop on, you won't have those specks of dust glaring back into the camera. So let's look at a little programming on here. So we're on the recorder itself. Go in the menu. Now, there's a couple ways you can program it. We're going to first show you the device programming, which basically you go to the camera, shows its resolution, is it on a group record, the camera title, is the camera covert. Then we have this adjustment setting, and that adjustment just for brightness, contrast, color, hue, and sharpness. So that just goes, sets it here, then makes a call up to the camera and actually changes settings in the camera. Okay, so it's not doing anything here to filter the video. You can see the camera's in, it's still in black and white mode. We can sit there and save it, and then we can go, of course, and oh, I think it just replayed. There we go. Sorry. So now we go into the PTZ control, and we go to program. Now that'll bring up the PTZ control, and now we can go in and change the settings directly in the camera and go to all the settings of the camera. And you can do this at the machine or in the web browser remotely. We have the same functionality, almost the same menu layout remotely. So we're going to go through here and change some settings. We're going to look at mode. We're going to run it in color mode. Okay. And I got some other stuff I'm going to show you later on how this works. But we have it, of course, our day-night function, our function setting, motion. We don't use a lot because obviously we're doing motion detection on there, but you can have motion in the camera running and it'll pop up a text saying motion. Okay. And some of the cameras will try to draw a box around the motion, which is, you know, kind of put your eye on it. If you have a lot of cameras, might be a useful function. And then we're going to go into setup and privacy mode. Again, rarely used in the States, but used a bit in Canada because they want to cover up certain areas. You know, if you're, let's say, again, it's residential and you get a clear view of someone's window, you can put a privacy mask right there, and that would, you know, obscure that, because of course they believe in privacy, as everyone should. So you've got your settings here. Now, so the layout of this one is different than the other one. So you've got your StarLight mode. If you notice, if it's not dark enough, the StarLight mode doesn't make it make many changes. But we're going to go in and make the adjustments. Leave this on auto. All right, and then we got the gain control, which is the amount of how sensitive the sensor will be to light. Okay, so we can go in and change the gain. Start. My slides are not transitioning like they should. There we go. Then we got sharpness, gamma. Now gamma is actually a little counterintuitive. The lower the number, okay, so the higher the number, it got a little darker. The lower the number, the more the amount of the color white is in the image. Okay, it's not light, it's white. We can also flip and mirror the image. God forbid you have a camera upside down. You can do all your flipping and mirror imaging in here. There is a digital zoom. And then DRC is dynamic range control, which raises the difference between the lightest and the darkest area to kind of smooth things out. And then there's the defog mode. Now the defog mode doesn't have like a little windshield wiper that goes on the thing and wipes off fog. Doesn't have a little blower in it. What it does is it's using a video trick, which is to change the contrast. If the scene gets too contrasty, it'll then make an automatic adjustment for it. Okay, so thus if there's fog or mist or smoke in front of it, it'll still try to make that useful video. So that's the settings on that one. Now we're going to go to the 2 megapixel Vandal version, StarLight IP66 rated. And again, this one here, of course, you got your different screws or whatever. You also, though, have your RS-485 UDP cable. So there's a few more cables on here. Your video test setting on it. But also this one has the video baling built in. So on one side you have the video baling, so you only need to get a video baling for the other side. So if you want to run Cat5 cable, you can run it off twisted pair, you know, to the unit itself, and only have to have the video baling on the other side. So just keep that in mind. You're installing some of our cameras, usually the bigger housings, have this functionality built into it. So what's in the box, the manuals, the tools, you know, all kinds of stuff. This is what the unit looks like. Here's your how to get into your setup. Little switch there, but of course we're going to do the setup remotely. So again, we're going to go into our view here, and the layout is a little different. In this camera, it's actually a little simpler. There's just less on it. Backlight compensation. So that feature you just saw is what's called HME, which is highlight masking exposure. So that's used in specific situations where there's going to be a lot of usually bright lights, cars coming at it, and you're either trying to capture plates or see what's going on inside the car, and that will block out the brightest light and allow you to see the darker areas. Okay, it won't overwhelm the camera, and it's doing that electronically. All right, and of course you have your wide dynamic range, your WDR on there. Whoops. Next slide, please. Now we're going to go into our RGB mode, and the same thing, day-night mode. So I'm going to turn on color, which is what partly activates the StarLight mode. Okay. We're going to go back a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to turn off WDR, because if you're in StarLight mode, WDR doesn't buy you anything. Usually you leave it on BLC, and you'll see how this scene really brightens up. Okay. Again, there's the HME mode kicking on, blocking out the brightest lights. We're going to put it in BLC. The backlight compensation seems to work the best. Again, the defog mode, you can have that on or off. And when you go down to StarLight mode, you can increase or decrease the level of how the StarLight works. It would be more, let's say the back of your house was very dark all the time. You didn't have any extra lighting and there was overhanging trees. You might want to make it ×8 to do it. But as you can see, the scene brightened up quite a bit. Now, what I did was I took my iPhone with no flash, took a picture. So this was just about what I was seeing. Okay, there is a little extra gain from the iPhone, but this is actual video from the camera. Okay, so this is, I don't know what the megapixel of these iPhone 11s are. I don't remember. But this is a 2 megapixel, 3 or 4 seconds of video. And as you can see, the StarLight and everything really does brighten things up. And these were taken at the exact same time. I just sat under the camera and pointed it out. Okay, because I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a comparison on how it works. And as you can see, even though it's 2 megapixel, cleans up good. We can see the cars, my wife's car, so it says Hello Kitty down there, and this is just, again, the camera, no flash. So I want to give you an idea on how dark it was. It wasn't super dark, it's about 9 o'clock at night, but it really gives you an idea of how the StarLight functionality works. It brings up and enhances the existing light. There you go. So again, we have our sharpness, gamma. I think we're going down here to yeah, we can make an adjustment to the sharper, so it brings out the edges of objects. And again, make an adjustment to the gamma. Come on, Paul, go faster. So again, so you can make adjustment to the gamma. That brings out the amount of white in there. And we can mirror. Come on. And we can flip it. So again, you have a camera that's upside down. You can go in, mirror, flip, and make your adjustments to your camera as far as the view goes. And now we're going to go look through the other. I do have a quick question from Chris Plunkett. Is the 2 megapixel camera the only one you can do? Sorry, we're going to pause this. Only camera you can do connect to Cat 5. No, we have 5 megapixel cameras and other cameras that have the thing. I don't know all the exact models. Some of the smaller cameras just don't have them because of the physical size. Is the only reason why they don't have the twisted pair. So again, we're going in here and navigating, and then we have our thing. So the powerful thing about this is being able to go in and make a tweak to the camera when you're not on site. As long as the thing's on the internet, we can go in and you'll hit this a similar menu, which is a PTZ menu in the web browser. Type in preset 95, or you can actually go in. There's actually a command on the web browser that says menu, but you can just use preset 95. Go in and program the camera. So again, I think some powerful functionality. Now we have a bunch of accessories for our cameras. We have ceiling mounts, corner mounts, pole mounts, back boxes. We've got the plates that fit over the gang boxes. Of course, we've got video balins that do support up to 5 megapixel. I've noticed at some of the distributors that I was in before the pandemic or whatever started, that they were still selling a lot of, they had a lot of ones that were 2 megapixel on the shelf. So you got to be careful and make sure that they can handle the resolution of it. We're releasing sometime in a few weeks some 4K cameras, which we'll be doing a webinar on, and 4K recorders, and we'll have 4K video balins for those also. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you're matching the resolution. You don't want to have the wrong resolution. Doesn't necessarily have to be ours. They may not have ours on the shelf, but they may have another brand, but make sure they're actually able to handle the resolution you're looking at, or you'll get a lot of noise and stuff like that. So a couple things I wanted to bring to your attention is we have this great support website, so you can type in plus or A1 plus, IP plus, see the reports on, say A1 plus, IP plus network, A1 plus, IP plus Pathfinder, okay, and go in and see all the different support documents, FAQs, just, you know, questions we've gotten in on how to do this, and we're like, okay, let's put it in to our knowledge base. And they're getting added every week. We have actually a person dedicated to it who is taking a look at either tech calls or sales calls and then creating these documents on it. So we've committed a lot to making sure we have, you know, maximum amount of information for all our products. So next thing, of course, is the webinars. We're actually at the A1 Plus webinar, StarLight. Next week, we're going to be doing IP Plus, a little C3, system design. We're going to be having, Works With series on June 23rd. We're going to talk about Blackjack servers and Linux. And then these are all of our archived webinars we've been doing the last couple of months. So you can go look at video analytics. You can look at different camera configurations. You can look at how Spectrum, just go right to that because that video ended.